Hey guys, Haley here. I figured for this video we do something a little bit different. A lot of times I hear when we're going, people want to go to the track, it's that I don't know what to bring, or I don't have all the gear, or I have no idea what to bring with me. So what I'm going to do for you guys today is I'm going to compile everything that I bring to the track when I go, and I'm going to run through all of it basically one by one and tell you if you absolutely have to have it or if it's just an optional item. And we're going to run through everything I bring. I load it all up in my mid-size SUV and I tow the bike behind the trailer. I'm not going to focus on the bike at all today. I'm going to do a separate video about the bike. So this is just about stuff that you need to bring that's not attached to your motorcycle or part of your motorcycle. So all your gear, everything you need to have fun during the day, and going to just go through it. So let's get started here. The first thing and the most important thing is your key. So my motorcycle actually doesn't have a key, so I don't bring one with me. But if your motorcycle still has a key, which most do, you need to put your key somewhere very safe. I am not kidding when I say every single track day I go to, someone forgets this. So your pocket, if your purse, backpack. I usually bring a backpack full of stuff like my wallet, key, batteries for the GoPro, stuff like that. So always make sure you have your key. It should be the first thing you pack and the last thing you check to make sure you have. Always make sure you have your key. So now that we're through that, I'm going to cover the big stuff first because then I'm going to move it and we'll get into the little stuff. So first things first, cooler. I always bring a cooler with me. Having a full cooler is probably not required, and I'm not going to bother opening mine, but you should bring as much water or Gatorade or whatever it is else you like to drink that you can fit in your cooler with ice. You never ever have too much water. A lot of people have not enough. And I know personally I don't drink enough water at the track. And you should honestly, depending on how hot it is, be drinking probably 8 to 10 bottles a day. My goal is to drink 4 bottles in the morning and 4 bottles in the afternoon, just for me personally. Always bring something to have water in. Even if you don't have a cooler, go buy one of those styrofoam chest things at Walmart. I think they're like $5. Fill it with a bag of ice. You will thank me later. The other thing I'm going to get out of the way while we're here is what I tow with. So I actually rent a U-Haul trailer. I don't own a trailer and I don't ride to the track. A quick note on riding to the track, you absolutely can do it. I would not suggest it if the track is more than about 2 hours away. You'll be very fatigued when the day is over, and it can be kind of dangerous riding home on your bike. There's also the side effect of if something happens to your bike, even if you don't crash, if something happens, you are going to be without transportation. So I would highly suggest trailering your motorcycle, but again, if my track's an hour away here, I would be pretty comfortable riding a street bike to that track and riding it home. But usually people have room on their trailer. I know if someone came to me and said, Haley, I really want to go to the track, but I don't have a trailer, I would just rent a bigger trailer and put your motorcycle in it. So always try to reach out, join local Facebook groups, whatever it is. But anyway, for towing, this is a Harbor Freight or equivalent front shock. I don't remember where I bought it. I think I bought it on eBay. It was like $50. Really helpful if you're a single person trying to get stuff loaded onto the bike. And also, if the track you're going to requires that you zip tie up your kickstand and you don't have rear stands, you're not going to have any way to have the motorcycle stand up when you get back to the track or to the paddock. So it's really good to put in your paddock and use as a stand, like a makeshift stand. So I always bring it with me just in case I'm going to a track like that. Second, straps. So I just use standard straps, and I keep them all in the same bag. The only thing I'm going to mention is the Canyon Dancers. I always use Canyon Dancers. I actually did have a friend bent one of his clip-ons with these. I've never had a bad experience, and I've towed probably about 100 hours total with these now. No problems at all. I really don't have a complaint about it. But that's my towing setup, and I always bring that with me to the track. Next thing I'm going to move on into is stands. I bring both my front and rear stands because I have tire warmers, which we're going to get to in a second. Absolutely not required. Again, I mentioned if the track makes you zip tie up or remove your kickstand, having that front shock is more than enough for me. It's not super stable, but it's definitely okay. this is like your absolute answer if you have to have your bike on stands and you don't have a kickstand. I have a Pitbull rear and just some kind of Amazon knockoff front. It's absolutely fine. I know the Pitbull's great and I like the Pitbull a lot, but it was like $150 and that Amazon front was only $50. So I don't have a problem with it. And I would be comfortable suggesting that stand to you guys. Next up, and those are not required, like I said, not required. Next up is gas. So I actually have a VP Racing jug with the nozzle that I bring. Not required probably, but I would highly suggest you bring some kind of gas, even if it's a little dainty one like this that I have for my lawnmower. Bring something. You're not going to be able to do a single tank of gas for the whole day. You can either bum gas. Sometimes tracks have gas stations at them, or you'll be riding your bike or taking your car somewhere to go get gas and bring it to the track. So bringing gas, while not required, you're going to need gas during the day, so just keep that in mind. Next up, and I'm not going to bother opening them up, I might do another video on it later sometime in the future. Tire warmers, absolutely not required. I don't care what anyone tells you, those are not required for a track day. They're not required at all for any street tires, and I do know some people who run soft slicks without them. So definitely not required. I just recently picked those up and I've started using them, and while I do like them a lot and I bring the stands to do it, they're a huge pain in the butt, take a long time to set up, and they were very expensive. So definitely not required. This next item may be required depending on what you're doing. So this is a fan. It's like a $40 fan I bought at Menards or something. I bring it with me now because I have a garage that actually has power. It's really nice when it's really hot and those garages are kind of still and humid, so that it keeps the air moving, and it tilts so you can put your helmet on top of it to kind of dry it out because you will get wet. But not required. It's just kind of a nice to have, and I've been bringing it with me lately. All right, now before I get to the gear, which I'm going to open that bag and talk about all that in detail, these two items here. This black one is a pop-up tent. It's a Harbor Freight pop-up tent. And this is one of those like lawn chair things that you can buy at Walmart, like those chairs. I bought an oversized one. I would say that chair is probably required because otherwise you're going to be standing all day or sitting in your car. I think most people have those or can borrow them from someone. So would highly suggest, I would probably mark that required. The pop-up tent, not required, but might be heavily suggested based on where you're going. One of my first track days was at the Audubon Country Club in Illinois, and they don't have garages, and the pit area is literally just a giant black tarmac. So if that is your situation, you're going to be standing in the sun, you're already going to be really hot and dehydrated and tired and sweaty. The pop-up tent can be a lifesaver. So not required, but I would probably suggest it if depending on to the track you're going to. But you definitely don't need it to have fun. You can always hide under someone else's pop-up tent. Next thing I'm going to cover is tools. So I'm not going to go through all the tools in detail, but the gist of it is I bring enough tools to do almost anything on my motorcycle. I have my chain tool, I have my front axle tools, I've got my big wrenches for my rear axle nut, I've got all the little wrenches that I need, like the 10s and the 12s and the 14s, a full set of Allen keys. I bring all that stuff with me, so if something goes wrong, I can resolve it. For the vast majority, not all of that is required. I kind of go a little overkill with the tools. But if you have them, I would suggest you get some kind of small sack like what I have and put them in it and just bring it with you. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Most, I would say the vast majority of track organizations have someone that's on the sidelines that's doing repairs and selling stuff. We call them track vendors, and they will be able to do a lot of that stuff for you. But they might be busy, depending on how many people are there, they might not be able to help you right away, and you could be missing track time, especially if it's something silly, like a nut is backed itself off, or your chain's a little loose, or something like that that you can fix really quickly. Lifesaver. I will say the only thing in here that's probably required and I would cover it in more detail when we get to the bike prep, is some kind of way to measure tire pressure. I bring this one, but anything that you can measure tire pressure pretty accurately on your bike, and zip ties. I would consider those things required. I use zip ties almost every time. A rag is great too, just to wipe the bugs and crap off of your helmet. But as you see, for the most part, I got my chain tool, safety wire wrench, a bunch of zip cable ties, a bunch of wrenches, and basically, like I said, anything I have that I use on the bike pretty regularly. All right, we're gonna get into the gear now, so I'm gonna move this stuff and then we'll jump into the gear to bring. All right, so we're back at it here. I took some of my gear out so you guys can see it. Before I jump into the gear, I just wanna say that the vast majority of tracks I've been to, there is some kind of vendor there that rents gear, and I would definitely not turn my nose up at that. If you don't have all the gear, or you're gonna hobble something together with, like, some tracks allow textiles and stuff like that. Most of those vendors carry very nice suits, full Alpine Stars, especially if you're an average sized male. It's a little harder when you're an oddly shaped female, but if you're an average sized male, they for the most part have all the stuff you need. So I'm gonna run through this, again, talk about if it's required or just optional, and then kind of quick blurb on each one and any considerations you should make if you're buying that kind of stuff for yourself. First thing I'm gonna say, earplugs. Not optional, essential. You must wear earplugs. No one's going to come into your pit and scream at you and make you put earplugs on, but I don't see a reason to ride without them on the street, on the track, especially on the track because the bikes are loud. You've got people coming up behind you. The earplugs can really prevent you from having that, we call them survival instinct, to turn around because you do not want to be turning around on the track. So bring earplugs. Your 70-year-old you will thank me later. Wear earplugs, bring them. You can buy like 100 of those little orange foamy things, whatever kind works for you. It doesn't have to be expensive, just wear them, please. All right, next thing, helmets. So this is my track helmet. I do have two. I have a street helmet as well. The only thing to keep in mind with helmets is, as a bunch of other people have probably told you, DOT sucks. So try to get something that's at least ECE certified. Most tracks, Snell is not required, or Sharps, but usually a street helmet is more than enough. It has to be full face. Again, you're only going to be wearing it for 20 minutes or so in each session. So my track helmet is very aggressive. It's not super awesome on the street, but as long as it's full face, ECE rated or Snell rated, you'll probably be fine. Most tracks accept DOT. I personally will not wear only a DOT helmet, though. There are safety concerns, in my opinion. I love AGV. I've worn Shoei. I've worn Icon. I think they're all fine. Icon gets a bad rap, but I think they're all fine, honestly. I'm not a hater. All right, next is your suit. So I wear a Dainese, back to that oddly shaped thing. If you're looking at buying a suit, and this isn't really the video for it, but I just want to make a quick note that something I just learned. I probably paid close to $900 for this suit. It's just the entry-level Dainese suit. For the same price, you can buy a fully custom suit from the guys like, I'm ordering mine from Bison Track, Heroic, Plus. They all make custom suits. They're really great. You can get whatever design you want, and they're tailor-fit to your body. This one is actually designed for someone quite a bit taller than me. I'm just a little chunky, so it doesn't fit me great, but I wish I'd known that when I bought this, because I would have definitely bought the custom suit. But for the most part with suits, I prefer one piece, but two pieces fine. It has to be leather. Again, for the most part, if you go out there and you look at Alpine Stars, Taichi, Dainese, whatever it is, that suit's going to be fine. There's no ratings for these suits. They should just be full leather. It's fine to have the accordion stretch panels, but leather in the impact zones. The next item is a back protector. So a lot of tracks now are actually requiring back protectors, especially in the higher groups like intermediate and advanced. I always ride with mine on the track. I really like this Dainese one. Super flexible. I mean, I don't even notice that it's there. I really like it, but definitely not required unless it is required by your track. But again, if you're going somewhere where that rents gear and that is required, they'll probably rent it. And I always bring a hanger too, because you can hang it on your pop-up tent or in your garage or wherever you're at. One other note on the helmets that I forgot, bring both a clear and a tinted visor. Unless you always ride clear, then you can just ride with that. But conditions can change quickly and you can catch yourself off guard with the wrong kind of visor. Next thing I'm going to go with is chest protectors. So women actually get a really rough hand with this one. I think the Dainese is one of the only female-specific chest protectors, and I don't really like it, and that means I don't end up wearing it very often. It's a shame, because I really probably should be wearing one. I don't think I've been to a track yet that requires a chest protector. It's just suggested, but it's definitely what I would consider optional. Again, in most tracks, I haven't seen one that's required yet. And again, if it was required, the place that rented gear would rent it to you. So, next thing, gloves. So I actually always bring 2 pairs of gloves, just because if it does get wet for whatever reason, you are going to probably want to be changing your gloves because they'll get soaked and really hard to put on and off. So I bring 2 sets. The Alpinestars are my main set and the Taichis are my secondary set. Again, should just be up over the wrist, gauntlet style. A lot of them require that they have some kind of hard slider on the palm. Just check whatever the rules are. Gloves are required everywhere I've ever seen. And again, whatever org rents gear at your track is going to rent you the right kinds of gloves. Next thing is a pin lock. Some people swear by them, and I actually haven't used this one yet. I'm interested to try it out at some point, though. I just haven't gotten around to putting it on yet. The other things, I keep a bunch of random stuff in my gear bag. Sunscreen, necessity, especially if you have a sketchy tent situation, you're going to get sunburned. I always keep these hose clamps in here too. They're used for safety wiring, which we'll talk about at some point when I do the bike video. And fruit snacks and zip ties. So if you need a snack, I guess. So next thing is the boots. I wear Formas, not sponsored, but whatever boot, as long as it comes up over your ankle. I will say, out of all of the safety gear, I think the boots probably get overlooked the most. Because the reality is, if you go down, your feet are going to go down too. They're the closest thing to the ground. So I would definitely invest, if you're buying again, I would invest in something with a hard slider. You can see I've banged mine up pretty good. And something with a really stiff sole, because my Alpinestars completely fell apart the first season. So I would say go big on the boots. Go big on boots and go big on helmets. That's my pearls of wisdom. Next thing in here is an extension cord and a strip. I use it for my tire warmers. And the last thing is, I'm an old lady, so I always bring Advil with me. Right around midday, I usually can barely feel my legs, and I'm extremely dehydrated and have a headache, so I'm pretty much always got Advil on me. The one other thing that I don't have here that I always bring with me is some kind of food. I have a little, like one of those little Yeti tote things that I put all my food in. A lot of tracks have food vendors, and that's great, and I almost always utilize them because, you know, support your local track. But sometimes you don't have them, and sometimes they're not there, and sometimes you just want whatever you have. So always bring food with you. Again, if you don't eat it, just put it back in your fridge. Always better to have it than to not have it. So yeah, I think that's it. I'm only going to say one other thing about stuff to bring, and that's don't wear cotton under your suit. Don't wear like a t-shirt. Wear something that's going to wick moisture away from you. Think that you're like going for a run, right? You wouldn't wear like a heavy cotton long sleeve shirt and jeans. You'd wear spandex or something like that, something similar. I usually wear yoga pants and then a long sleeve spandex shirt, like one of those Under Armour cooling ones. Especially also you want something that covers all of your skin, because what's going to happen is as soon as your skin gets sweaty, it is not going to want to play nice with the inside of your suit, which is either this nylon kind of material or actual raw leather. Just like I mentioned, it's hard to get the gloves on when they're wet. It's really hard to get your suit on when your skin is soaking wet and the suit's wet because you're sweating in it. So definitely wear something that covers your whole body, long sleeve and long pants. Most guys I know wear those long compression pants with like gym shorts over it or something. You know, I understand, self-conscious. And they also wear like a compression top, sometimes with a t-shirt over it or something like that. And you can, you know, if you don't like to be in second skin, you can wear a t-shirt and gym shorts over it. I do that sometimes, just because you look a little weird walking around in full spandex sometimes, but definitely want to have that full spandex. Not required, but will make your life a lot more pleasant. Trust me on that one. So yeah, that's all the stuff I bring with me to the track. The only other stuff I bring is my stuff I bring everywhere, you know, my wallet and my keys. And then I also bring my GoPro with me usually. Definitely not required, but I like to see what my footage looks like after, and my friends like to see what they look like on the track with me out there. So I usually bring that stuff. So my next video, probably what I'm gonna do is walk through prepping a motorcycle. A street motorcycle. So I'm gonna prep my S1000 RR like you would for the track and walk you guys through all those steps and everything. Just for the most part, you really don't have a lot of work to do on the bikes. The bikes are pretty ready to go out of the box. The vast majority of it is just taping up mirrors and lights and stuff. But I'm gonna run through all of it, talk about what's required and what's optional, and how to do it. So if you enjoyed this video, hit that subscribe button. And let me know if I missed something that you bring to the track, or if there's something that you think should be in my list that's not. Maybe I haven't thought of it, or maybe I brought it and found a reason not to. So till next time, enjoy the ride. Bye.